Well, I've asked all 5 candidates to join me for interviews at the Civic Center on different times and days. Paul never got back to me. Steve has some scheduling conflicts, so we didn't get a chance to interview him. Question number 1, your name, your platform, and one major issue you plan to address.
My name is Maria Gonzalez, and I'm running for Commerce City Mayor because I believe in Commerce City. I care for Commerce City, and I want to be part of this new generation that engages and is inclusive and that works together with all of the community and that really thinks about the support that we're giving to small businesses, making sure that they have the resources that they could use to be sustainable and grow and bring families into Commerce City where they feel welcome and that they can raise their families.
Hi, my name is Renee Bullock, and I'm running for mayor in Commerce City. My major platform is Experience Matters. I've been on the council for 16 years, 10 years as a councilman, 6 years as mayor pro tem, and I have the experience to, I believe, lead a council in the next 4 years in which everybody on council will have 2 years or less, except for the mayor, if that's me.
Hi, so I'm Benjamin Huseman, running for mayor of Commerce City. I'm in the race to run for mayor of Commerce City because I want to see Commerce City live up to its potential. All too often I hear from residents about how we just don't have what they're looking for in the community, and they're wanting to see, improvements. And so my focus is really on making those improvements for the community and making this a place where people are truly proud to call home.
Question 2, what are some of your favorite things to do in Commerce City? Favorite park, open space, restaurants, churches? How do you take advantage of our city?
Our wonderful city has so many Mexican restaurants. I love Mexican restaurants. They're all a little bit different. I love supporting them and making sure that I not only enjoy their food, but also ask about how can the city help? How can our local organizations support them in understanding how to grow their business? One of my favorite parks is Pioneer Park, because it's got so many opportunities to play and to get together with neighbors.
There's a lot of favorite things in Commerce City that I like to do. I work at the Historical Museum every Monday from 10 to 2, and that's my volunteer shift. I love for people to come in there, and I love to just walk around in there and see history that I thought I knew about something. Then you start reading again, and you find out a little bit more about the history of Commerce City. The Rocky Mountain Arsenal Wildlife Refuge sits right in the middle of our city between the north and the south. If people haven't been out there yet and done the driving tour, gone to the visitor center, just walked around out there, they don't know what they're missing.
So my favorite place in Commerce City, as far as the parks go, is Veterans Memorial Park. Being retired from the Air Force, disabled veteran, obviously that speaks to me, and I like to go there and just reflect on the people who have given their lives and sacrificed in order to serve our country. Favorite restaurant in Commerce City is without a doubt Big Daddy's Mexican food. Her style of Mexican food is what I grew up with in San Diego, and so I just love going there to eat.
Question number 3, this is my favorite question. Who is your favorite Denver mayor and why?
Wow, that is a good question. I've had a few favorite Denver mayors. I really liked Michael Hancock. People have problems with Michael, but if they look back and they see all the things Michael has done for the city of Denver in his 2 terms and going into his 3rd, they will be so proud of him because he put Denver on the map nationally since he's been in office.
My favorite mayor was Federico Peña. I was in North High School when he was running for mayor. That was actually my first interaction in politics. I was a teenager and really walking on behalf of that campaign, and then knowing that he was able to dream about the airport. Think about, this is the opportunity that we can connect the world and making it bigger and making it with all the amenities that are needed. He was a dreamer, he was a visionary, and I am able to look up to him and knowing all of the great things that he did. And I believed when I was, 14, 15 years old, I believe in his dream. And now all of us get to take advantage of that. So I was inspired to hear him and to understand that, we all have the same potential.
I'm going to be honest and tell you that I don't know a lot of the Denver mayors. Obviously Michael Hancock has been in term pretty much the entire time that I've lived here in Colorado. I've only lived in Colorado for about 6 years now. We transferred here with the Air Force, and so I was we lived in Westminster whenever we moved here, and then whenever I was getting ready to retire from the Air Force, we chose to settle in Commerce City. So my knowledge of Denver mayors really isn't that extensive.
What does a city mayor do? What are the duties and responsibilities?
Sure. So, the mayor is a member of the city council, votes just like all the other council members. In Commerce City, we are managed by a city manager. So unlike Denver, where, the mayor of Denver is kind of the CEO of the organization of the city, here the city manager has that function. And so the mayor basically leads the council and, ensures that the council is giving the proper direction towards the city staff to make sure Commerce City is going in the right direction.
Really, the city mayor in Commerce City has the same power as the other 8 participants on the council. The mayor's specific jobs is he runs the meeting, he's the ceremonial head of the city. At any ribbon cuttings, he cuts the ribbons. At any ceremony, he speaks and everything. But basically, he has no more power than any of the other 8 council people. His vote weighs the same as everyone else's.
The mayor has the great responsibility of running city council meetings to make sure that works together with all of the other city council members, which are 8. We have 4 that are at large and then 4 that are ward representatives, and making sure that we look into the best interest of every Commerce City resident and business, that we look at policy, make sure the policy is passing on the best of opportunity for everybody in Commerce City, and that makes sure that there's transparency, that our budget is designed to move forward in ways that the city needs to be represented in every industry, in every department, and that we collaborate with the best city manager and administration so that everybody's under the same umbrella and understanding how do we together move Commerce City forward.
What are your thoughts on Suncor Energy on 58th and Brighton Boulevard? It's the largest refinery of fuel in the Rocky Mountain region. It also puts out a lot of harmful cyanide gas. Let me know your thoughts on Suncor as well as fracking, please.
Suncor Energy over here provides 40% of the fuel that is used in Colorado, not just the Denver area, used in Colorado. It provides all the jet fuel for DIA and everything on underground lines. You won't see any fuel trucks going out to DIA because all the fuel lines go underground. What people don't realize is that Suncor Energy is an essential partner in Commerce City. They have been an economic partner, they've been a corporate partner, and they've been a citizen partner in Commerce City since I've been on council and before. To take Suncor Energy out of the picture in Commerce City, I always ask people, how are you going to backfill it? What departments are you going to close down in the city, or what amenities are we not going to have? Because if they provide 40% of the fuel in the whole region, the state, what do they do for Commerce City itself? And I can name some things. The Suncor Boys and Girls Club, they were over $1 million contributor. They have contributed to this city in any time we've ever asked them for anything because they are a good corporate partner with the city.
So, Suncor is a vital resource to our region, and I understand the environmental and the health concerns that people have whenever they talk about Suncor. But if we didn't have Suncor in that refinery in this region, imagine how many more trucks we would have on the road trying to bring that fuel in. Imagine, where do we get the fuel for DIA? Where do we get the fuel for the vehicles that we're continually driving every day?
As far as fracking goes, there is no fracking being done in Commerce City, and has never been any fracking in Commerce City. The only fracking that was was ever done was outside Commerce City's borders in Adams County. And you will hear people run around like Chicken Little, the sky is falling, that this is happening and that. Make them show you the facts.
You know, I personally, my personal belief is I would prefer it not be there. However, what I tell people all the time about being in politics is, are you willing to do what is best for your community and put your own personal feelings aside? And that's been my position on it. And so my goal has always been to minimize the impact that that operation is going to have on our community. I think that recent changes in regulation give us a little bit more control, but at no opportunity do we have the right or the ability to say, no, not in our city. And I know that's hard for people to understand. People say, well, the 181, you can do this. Well, 181 still doesn't give us the right. You know, one of the co-sponsors of the bill even came out and said, banning is not the right way. Good regulatory control is the right way. And that's when I talk about minimizing the impact. That's what I'm talking about good regulatory control. If you look at the regional operator agreement that was recently signed between us and Extraction, it has protections on there that are actually better than what Adams County just passed. You know, we have setbacks that are going to be greater than what Adams County just required. And Adams County gives the operators the ability to petition to do away with that setback that they require, whereas our process is not going to allow that. And so where Adams County went forward and changed and codified all their regulations, and we went a different direction and we had the operator agreement set up, all the industry went and protested to Adams County and said, oh my God, you're killing us, don't do this to us. The operator has agreed to the regulations that we're getting ready to codify ourselves, but they don't have a leg to stand on to come to us and say, oh, well, you can't do this to us, because they already agreed to it. And I think that that approach actually helps the industry as well as the community, as opposed to just one side versus the other. I think that partnership going forward is truly going to work towards minimizing the impact on the community, like I spoke about.
I don't think anybody would ever like to have fracking on their homes. I believe that we have a setback, we should have a setback of 2,500 feet or more. And also, I believe in working together with these industries, because it is obvious that this industry is needed, that has been meeting the need of our communities for years and years. And thinking about, how do we collaborate? How do we sit on the table and negotiate what is better for our community? Also, Commerce City relies on tax revenue from these industries, perhaps creating a tax specific for these industries. And of course, holding all of these organizations accountable to best business practices, to make sure that they have the proper insurance, to make sure that they communicate with residents and understand what the damages that are being happening in our community. I want to make sure that we have a better quality of life. And I believe working together with these businesses and working to understand the industry and thinking about how do we come back with best business practices that will make it more efficient, and that Commerce City does not lose the revenue, but then we also don't lose people being ill or sick on the environment.
Neighbors to the north in Brighton fired the city manager over $70 million cover-up over excessive water bills. Now some Commerce City citizens are seeing double or triple increase in their bills. Any thoughts on this?
You know, as soon as those increases from the Commerce City residents came out, I reached out to the city manager and I said, hey, we need to get in touch with the district and we need to get a handle on this, because seeing what was taking place up in Brighton, I didn't want to see the similar concerns being expressed here in Commerce City. The city staff reached out to the district, finally got a hold of them, and the district provided a response and said, hey, it's, you know, usually because of increased watering on the lawns and things like that, and went through this whole process of how they double and triple check bills to make sure they're accurate. But that doesn't alleviate people's concerns whenever they see their bills skyrocket. Whenever I see people saying they're getting $500, $700 water bills, that is an anomaly that should not take place, and that's something that needs to be investigated to the fullest extent.
The water is a different organization. Commerce City cannot grow without having the right water agreements. I believe that it should be a priority for the mayor and city council to establish growing together the rules and regulations that will benefit Commerce City, future residents, and current residents, as well as business owners. Without water, we cannot grow. Therefore, we need to be accountable to the department and make sure that we work together to identify what are the needs and what are the potential partnerships that we can do. And first and foremost, be transparent. I believe transparency in every one of the organizations, it's going to be key in order for us to continue to grow and have that development that is needed for Commerce City to have that vision of opportunity.
The water district is a separate district, and as far as I know, I have heard this rumor, but nobody has come to me and shown me a water bill that has tripled in the last year. You know, you hear about it, but until I see it, I can take you to a water director and they can investigate it, but I haven't seen it and nobody has brought anything to me, so I really don't know anything about that.
Number 7, prairie dogs. This is actually a big deal to some people. Where do you stand with prairie dogs?
I made an oath to the citizens of Commerce City to protect them. I never saw a prairie dog vote, and I didn't make an oath to prairie dogs to protect them. If protecting the citizens means that we have to lose some prairie dogs, that's what we would do. We had a plague down here in the southern area that was prairie dog induced by fleas. If it had gone up north and kids and dogs or kids and pets had got sick behind it, we would have had an uprising of why we aren't protecting the citizens. Our oath is to the citizens of Commerce City, not the prairie dogs.
First and foremost, the safety of our residents is a priority. I think we need to collaborate with the health department to identify what are the threats, what are the risks, and really work together to make sure that our city is not contaminated and that we avoid any contamination and any risks to the overall community. We also need to work with the wild refuge and understand, how do we prevent these from happening again, or making sure that we have all the knowledge and information so that we can proceed in the best safe way to our community.
So the Second Creek Restoration Project definitely needs to go forward. And I agree that we need to do more in order to control the population of prairie dogs. However, I am 100% opposed to the method of going out there and exterminating them in the manner that they're going to. One of the things I worked for was trying to get a partnership with Prairie Preservation Colorado so that they can relocate those prairie dogs. They said they can get them out on the Rocky Flats. They can get them so that they can still live without actually having to exterminate them. So while I understand the need for the project, I don't agree with the means in which we're going about it.
Number 8, I was told that we are not recycling properly as a community. Many of the trucks are going straight to the dump. What do you think about this?
It is true. Unfortunately, it's very true. And actually, we just had this conversation on Monday night because we're going with the new refuse contract starting January 1st. The problem is countries like China, who used to buy a bunch of recyclables out of America, quit doing so because it's contaminated. And the old school way of, hey, it's plastic, just throw it in the recycling bin, doesn't work anymore. You can be the most diligent recycler on your block, but if your neighbor is using that recycling bin as a second trash can, the entire lot is contaminated. Into the landfill it goes. We have to come up with innovative ways to get that recycling back. One of the things that I've pushed for and one of the things that I am extremely upset about is the option of having weekly recycling. So that you actually, instead of having to just save up every 2 weeks, you get your recycling, you can have it every 1 week. But also giving you the option, if you decide that you don't want to be a recycler and yet you generate too much garbage, give you the second tote for garbage, let that get picked up weekly so that you're continuing to just generate your trash in a manner, but you're not contaminating an entire truckload worth of recyclable.
I actually started recycling with a group of residents because I wanted to make sure that people understand that we can all make a little bit pitching in to save the world. So we started recycling with a local nonprofit organization and some neighbors. And I believe that we should continue to recycle. And I believe that we should hold this company accountable so that the recycle actually gets recycled instead of thrown in the trash. All of us need to be responsible to making sure that we are collaborating in our own households to make sure that we save our planet. If that is all that we can do in our house, that should be the minimum, separating your recycle, making sure that it's clean, that it's washed, and that we can actually recycle it. Otherwise, if it goes to the trash, then we don't get the benefit.
We do have a problem with recycle. A lot of people are not following the recycling rules. You aren't supposed to throw anything with food in with your recycling. If they see that there's any food contamination in the recycling bin or anything like that and it gets dumped into the truck, that truck is no longer able to go to a recycling place. So people, we're telling it, if you aren't recycling right, get 2 green cans instead of a recycle can. That way you know everything you're going to throw away is going to be taken to a landfill or something, or packed up and taken someplace else, because it's going to end up in the landfill anyway if you've contaminated the recycle truck. And yes, that is true that a lot of recycling is being contaminated, and there are different kind of plastics you can't put in recycling. There's different kind of car. You can't put a pizza box after you've eaten the pizza out of it in recycling.
9. Rumor has it Commerce City is not small business friendly. Would you agree or disagree?
I sadly agree with that statement. It crushes me. I had a resident who wanted to, at one point in time, open up a tiki bar, and she contacted me, and I said, great, and I put her in contact with economic development, and economic development was like, okay, well, good luck, let us know how it's going. And and you talk to Roger Japp, who's running for at-large right now, and he talks about his desire to open up a business, and economic development give him the same thing. But whenever the big fish comes, well, we roll out the red carpet. We give those economic incentive packages and everything, and I think that's not where we need to be. If we're going to do it for the big fish, we got to do it for the small fish as well.
I believe that Commerce City could do a much better job in improving relationships with current small businesses. I actually started the chamber along with other stakeholders to send a message that Commerce City is open for business. However, that's an organization that is outside the city. I believe Commerce City Economic Development should be focusing on creating programs and services and business development for current businesses, as well as attracting new businesses with the opportunity to bring them and work together for sustainability. I have been a business owner myself for 13 years in Commerce City, and I really never felt the support from economic development as a small business. That is why I also started Adelante Community Development, which is a nonprofit organization where we support minority businesses with business resources. We help them to make sure that they have their business license and establish credibility with their.
Commerce City is small business friendly. What the rumor has some strings to it, but it has a lot of disqualifying facts to it. In order to be completely small business friendly, you have to have a staff that is able to take every small business that shows up and give them concierge service. That's what Commerce City doesn't have. In order to have a staff large enough to provide every business what you would want to provide that business with, we would need to get maybe 7 to 10 more people working in our permit department. And that is where the holdup is.
Here's another fun question. Number 10. If you were given a $5 million grant for the city, what would you spend it on and why?
Wow, that's a great question. I think that we have to focus again on that small business piece. We have to focus truly on how do we encourage small businesses to open in our community. One of the things economic development told me is that, we don't have sites available. Our inventory of where they can open isn't there. But I drive around the city and I see empty buildings and I'm thinking this is where it can be. So I think we could use that grant to really incentivize some small businesses to get open in our community, and that's going to in turn result in the greater impact of more revenue for the city, more opportunities for residents to have employment, more opportunities for us to eat and play and shop here in the community.
If I was able to have a $5 million grant, one of the very first things that I would make sure that I do is a technical education. I believe that our businesses are lacking ready employees that have skills that could be utilized within our own community, residents that could take those jobs. We need to invest in technical education, have short-term careers, maybe 10 months to 12 months where people get educated in a field and they can go and start jobs immediately, and have these organizations or businesses within Commerce City hire them and make sure that our families have a better income and they don't have to drive far away from work, and that we continue our education system, leveraging opportunities with technical education and resources so that it's a win-win for all.
I would probably do more street projects with it. I would try to use some of it to alleviate our homeless problem that we have in the city. And a lot of people don't realize how big it is, because a lot of people that are homeless are couch surfing with their friends. But if you look at the definition of homeless, it's far bigger than most people realize.
Number 11, plans for the old dog track. And while you're at it, what are your plans for around DIA?
Okay, our plans for the dog track are going to be moving well along in 2020. There is a master developer that's going to be going with the infrastructure coming either the last quarter of this year or the beginning of next year, and the dog track will be going vertical in 2020. We'll have multifamily, single-family homes, and more retail and commercial development. Also, second part of the question, up north. We have a master plan for up north on lands that different developers own. When those developers come to the city and want to start developing their lands, that's when we go into the platting and permitting department and start seeing how they want it platted, how it's going to be permitted, see what infrastructure needs to be done there, because a lot of it's going to have water from water the district and everything. So it is a difficult decision to make, because we can't do anything until the landowners actually come to the city and want to plat and develop their land.
In regards to the dog track, I believe that this developer needs to be held accountable, and to make sure that that actually happens, that this has been promised to our residents. We need the small business location in that area. We need affordable homes, and we need that opportunity for us to grow. We've been hearing too many times that we need the households in order for us to get more businesses and more entertainment. I feel that that should be a jewel where we can invest a lot more of our time, making sure that we have places for families to gather and to shop and to be entertained, and as well to be educated. That could be a perfect location for a trade school.
Plans for the dog track. The plans languished for a long time. We had a master developer who was not doing anything, and the city council this year fired him. We moved on new direction with a new master developer. We've signed agreements with them. We have funded the gap in funding for the low-income housing portion of it. We funded the regional detention pond that needs to go, and you're going to start seeing work on there. Shouldn't have taken this long, period. We all know it shouldn't have taken this long. It's taken this city council to get fed up with the lack of progress and say this master developer is no longer going to be the master developer. So everybody says, I'm going to get it going. Well, it is going. It's in the plans. Part of the deal that was signed is there are timelines that have to be met. And actually the first timeline that wasn't met wasn't the developer's fault, it was the city's fault. It was actually community development who didn't get the reviews back to the developer in time, and that's unfortunate. But we are moving forward. We are going to start seeing dirt turn in here pretty soon, and I'm excited to see what that project really becomes. Around DIA, we actually have a land use case right in front of us right now, annexation to start the process. Our growth boundary goes up to the edge of DIA, comes all the way up on the northern side of DIA. And the Crowley Companies actually has come forward with an annexation request to bring in the first 234 acres of the property east of E470, north of 104th Avenue, and that's going to be the catalyst that gets it going. One of the challenges is there's no utilities on the other side of E470, so there's a cost for regional infrastructure to get the utilities across there that's going to have to be funded in order to start that. Crowley owns a significant portion of land out there, I think about 1,500 acres total that they have as an opportunity to get developed in the first 234 acres, starting off with commercial, mixed-use, residential. And their goal truly is to have the next tech center out there next to DIA. And I think that area is prime for it. Whenever you consider the work that's going to take place with the Aerotropolis and companies moving, into the Aerotropolis and then actually coming out around, we are prime for development over there. And that's why it's critical that we are ready to go whenever that happens. So it was a little bit of a struggle trying to decide how do we fund that to get those utilities across there. I know a lot of us really kind of, had to weigh the pros and cons of what really needed to happen. But I think that going forward, we are primed for just beautiful development out there that is truly going to transform Commerce City and make this Commerce City live up to its potential.
Number 12, solution for homeless problem and low-income housing.
The problem with homeless is, everybody thinks, well, you just go run them off. And that's not the solution. We can't keep playing ping pong with Denver. We can't keep pushing them down there and then having Denver push them back up to us and back and forth. We have to come up with solutions. And then those solutions, I, as a retired airman, one of the things that my long-term goal is to have a nonprofit I call Camp Hope, where I basically go get a bunch of surplus military tents and surplus military fixtures and buy some property, set it up there. And this is something that the homeless veterans can really relate to because they're used to being, in those tents and in that kind of environment. And then at the same time actually have a little wood shop and build custom handcrafted furniture in order to continue to fund that. I think that we have to come up with innovative ideas like that. We need to figure out where is a spot that we could actually truly house the homeless people and give them the dignity of, hey, here's something you can work for. Let's get you trained. Let's get you ready again for the future and get you off of the dependency that we have going on. So we have to come up with where do we do that? And I think that this isn't a Commerce City thing. I think this is a regional thing. And this is something that, every mayor in the metro area is going to have to start working together to truly figure out a way to solve homelessness that goes beyond, let's just rustle them out of this area. Let's clean up the encampment down by the river. Let's get them going there. Because that doesn't solve the problem. We're just putting a Band-Aid on it because, residents come and say, oh, the homeless are in the park and I can't use the park. And so the police go and they shuffle them out of the park and we haven't fixed the problem. We've just put a Band-Aid out there and that's just not going to work. So I truly feel that all the mayors, all the city councils, basically, Dr. Cog, the Denver Regional Council Governor, is going to have to come together and really come up with a plan for a regional solution to homelessness that doesn't just focus on what are we going to do right here in Commerce City. Because as soon as we fix the problem in Commerce City, they're like the prairie dogs. They're just going to migrate right back in, It's unfortunate that we're having this problem in America. And, I spent a lot of time in California. I'll tell you drive down San Francisco and you see what's going on their streets, and you drive down Los Angeles and you see, and you're hearing now stories about how leprosy is coming back, and it's scary to think how far off are we of having to contend with some of these diseases in our own community because of the situation that we're starting to see pop up. I think that we can focus more on the human services aspect. It's typically that's kind of more of a county function, but focusing kind of on the city and trying to figure that out. We've had conversations about do we buy, property, do we buy, floors in different buildings, and do we do kind of stuff where we can start having more of a human services role in the community and really kind of foster the nonprofits that can help these situations. It's just, it's something that's going to have to be worked on regionally.
The homeless problem should be bitten off in little chunks. And until people realize that you can solve it if you take little chunks and handle those and solve little problems at a time, and after you solve that little problem, use that as a base to solve the next problem. And then just keep building your pyramid, because no pyramid is built from the point down. They're always built from a big base up.
In regards to homeless, my office and my home is next to Los Valientes Park. We get to see in the Derby district 17 to 20 homeless individuals every single day. I get to let them use my bathroom in my office. They come to our community garden for food. I get to let them use our facilities, but it's a bigger problem. I feel that Commerce City should be working with the county and the state to make sure that we develop a program that understands why homeless is happening, and make sure that these individuals have what they need in regards to, is it mental health? Is it home assistance through current programs that the county might already have in partnership, I don't believe that homeless should be only just thrown into a police car and taken into a facility. I think we have a major or bigger problem than just being homeless. We need mental, drug, other solutions that we can prosper with these individuals. I also see that homeless people have come from other cities as Denver continues to gentrify. When I interact with these individuals, I know that they are not the usual homeless that we have known within our city for a long time. I feel that they are a part of our community, that we need to understand how do we help them, and working with agencies to make sure that they have the necessary support so that they can come back into our society, that they feel welcome, and that there's opportunities for them to have jobs and perhaps education, and most important, their well-being.
Okay, I do not ever talk about low-income housing. I talk about attainable housing. There's no such thing as affordable or low-income housing, because it depends on what your income is if you can ever afford it. Attainable means that when you get to a certain point, you have a house, and it's a house you can pay for, or apartment that isn't going to put you in a bind. And I think that's what we should be looking at putting in and around our city, and it would help solve the homeless problem. We will never solve the homeless problem, because there are a lot of people out there that are what we call chronically homeless. They do not want your help. They don't want you to do anything. They want to be free. They have issues that they're dealing with, and they wouldn't be good to be around anyone anyway.
I think that low-income housing gets a bad connotation. I think really what we need to be focused on in Commerce City is attainable housing. And attainable housing works across all levels of income. It works across, basically, we have to have the ability for people to be able to afford to live in the kind of house that they truly want to be able to. It's not just low-income piece. We suffer on senior housing as well. A lot of the senior housing we have in the community is income restricted. We have seniors who are wanting to get out of their homes, that are no longer wanting to do the maintenance, that need to get into apartments, and they're looking for a nice place to live. And the option of, let me just move up north, is not what they want. They want to live down here, down south. They want to live in the heart of the city. They want to live in the community that they have grown up in the community they lived in for the last 40, 50 years. And they're looking for that attainable housing that is going to meet their needs. So we don't just have a problem with a lack of low-income housing. We have a lack of attainable housing and a lack of housing options that truly are going to represent the desires of the community. And I think we have to focus on how do we get that development to be here in Commerce City, while at the same time making sure that we do not lose our identity and start putting up boxes that we see in the River North area, that we see in the Five Points area, and things like that. We can't allow that kind of development within our city. Our development always needs to stay true to the history, the diversity, and the community that it's going to be in.
Thoughts on education and workforce?
My thoughts on education and workforce is that they go hand in hand. Everyone doesn't need to go to college. And we had a society for a while that was saying to everyone, you need to go to college, you need to go to college. But we were looking at down the road at a workforce that was steadily graying and entering the retirement years. When all these people retire at one time, who are going to backfill? Where are our plumbers going to be? Where are our welders going to be? Where are electricians? Where are sheet metal workers? If we don't train people in the tech industries, we have done it to ourselves, because we're going to need people to backfill for the people that are going to be retiring in the next, I say, 5 to 7 years. We're going to have a mass retirement of a lot of technical workers that, if we don't have people that know what they're doing, culinary, you name the field, these are fields that people have grown up in. I know a lot of people that are hairdressers that are getting of that age that they aren't going to be doing anymore. How many people do you know are going to cosmetology school that are going to backfill those places. So what we need to do is, yes, kids still, if they want to, go to college. But I'm telling a lot of them, if you get into a tech field, in the time it takes them to train you and you're on your own, you'll be making $100,000 when your friend that comes out of college will have $100,000 in debt.
The marijuana money comes to the general fund. So if we are able to create a special tax, a special percentage of that tax to go into technical education, and within 2 to 5 years, we build a technical school and provide those opportunities for entrepreneurs or families that could use that education to have a better quality of life, making more income.
So I really think that we need to be preparing kids for the future of their choosing. We can't continue to be pushing people that you have to go down a certain path. We have 2 districts in Commerce City. They both have their own unique challenges. I say all the time that the quality of education shouldn't depend on whether you live north or south of 88th Avenue. It needs to be fair across the board, equitable across the board. And, I struggle with the state of education in Commerce City and truly question how we can make a bigger difference.
Is there a traffic problem in Commerce City? What are your solutions?
Yes, there is a traffic problem in Commerce City, and the solution is that what we need to do is upgrade our roads. We have roads here that need to go from 2 lanes to 4 lanes, which sometimes you say the more lanes you put on in a road, the more traffic it's going to get, but it already has that traffic. So what we need to do is alleviate, but buying easements is expensive. And in Commerce City, some of the roads that we have, the buildings were built right up to the roads. So if you need to widen that road, how do you tell a person, move your building back? I mean, this is a problem, and people say it's a challenge. No, this is a problem that this next council is going to be dealing with. Rosemary is one of the streets that runs parallel to Quebec Street, that everybody uses it as a north-south hub to get over to 88th, to get down to 76, or go west on 88th. So it has to be widened. I would like everybody to go over and see how much room we have to widen Rosemary. 88th Avenue needs to be widened, but we have a grade crossing. What are we going to do? Are we going to go over it? It definitely, a lot of people do not want to go under grade crossings because you're still going to build a bridge over it. To upgrade that grade crossing, you would have to build a bridge. So if we're going to build a bridge, let's build a bridge for the vehicles to go over the trains instead of the trains going over the vehicle. But it has to be widened. We have a lot of easement there that we need that costs money. And when people realize that it's their easement, something that there was no value to them a year ago, all of a sudden becomes very valuable to them in the present.
I think we need to do a study that where we can identify what are the risks of currents of some of the streets. I think the Highway 2 needs to be increased on speed so that we can have more traffic flowing. We need to continue, as the way that we're growing, we need to continue with more studies about what are the needs of our community. And we need to include other transportation, for example, the RTD, bike routes. We need to be a lot more user-friendly. However, in the historic part of the city, our sidewalk infrastructure is not ready for a lot of the traffic that needs to be happening. So as a mayor, that's going to be one of the areas that I want to work with our departments to make sure that we do the proper studies and that we meet with neighbors so that we can understand what are their needs on their blocks, on the streets, on the highway, and to make sure that we address that as we continue to grow, that we have a flowing traffic where we can avoid accidents, make it safe, and most important, people get to go where they need to go in a timely fashion.
There is a traffic problem. Absolutely. The railroads create a problem. 270 is a parking lot. The intersection at 60th and 85 is horrendous. Solution is working regionally, trying to get funding in order to fix these problems. We have tried, unfortunately, unsuccessfully, to get money out of Dr. Cog in order to fund the 120th and 85 overpass. We've tried to get money allocated for 270 to get that project, widened and some of the improvements there. And the reality is, we just have a lack of funding. And this is whenever I talk about the need for non-residential development in Commerce City. Non-residential development is taxed at a significantly higher rate than residential. 74% of our revenue comes off of sales and use tax. That non-residential piece is critical to funding and getting us where we need to be. We can't continue to take out bonds. We can't continue to leverage our future through debt in order to pay for these projects. But at the same time, we're not getting the federal grants, we're not getting the tip money, we're not getting that stuff in order to fund that.
And the last question, what are your goals to make Commerce City amazing?
My goals to make Commerce City amazing is to use my experience to help make a council that will be the most dynamic council in the next 4 years. I want a council, and I've said this before, that has the courage to do the impossible. We aren't going to have just minor issues coming up. We have major issues that are going to come up in the future with Commerce City, and this council is not going to be a council that shirks back from its duties. We're going to be a council that moves forward.
I want to make Commerce City amazing. I want us to be welcoming for families and also for businesses. One of the things that I started this year is the Commerce City Community Festival. I made it purposely here in the core city at the Civic Center because I believe that is the people's building, and that is where the legacy is going to be happening for future events. As the city continues to grow, we need to have a place that we can call home and make sure that everybody gets invited. This particular event was a group with the stakeholders in the community. I make sure that everybody was invited, both in English and Spanish, because we have a huge Latino population that I feel that it needs to be addressed as well as we continue the growth of our outreach. I want to make sure that we get celebrated, that community feels validated, and that you belong to our city, that you can say, I live in Commerce City in a proud way because you're contributing to our community. I also want to make sure that businesses feel that they are a significant part of our growth, that they are included as we move forward in making decisions of taxes, of access to resources, and most important, how do we brand Commerce City national and international opportunities, making sure that we have entertainment places, make sure that we have educational opportunities, not only K through 12, but it's important that our young families have a place where they can take their kids, their children to childcare needs. We want to make sure that those families have a place that it's affordable and that it's close to where they live so that they can go to work or go to school or do their lives to make sure that they have a place where their child is safe and it's affordable to pay. I also want to make sure that we have enough open spaces for parks and recreation and that we attract the best of entertainment opportunities. But also at the same time, I want to make sure that we look at, what is the mission of Commerce City? How do we have quality community for a lifetime? Have we really asked our residents, what does that mean for you? How can we, the city, make Commerce City the best place for you? And I've known, there's been different surveys, but I want to be the one knocking on the doors and asking people and feel that engagement so that you can tell me, hey, Maria, this is how we can work together in our school, in our business, in our community, and make sure that we're always on the same page about moving Commerce City forward.
One of my biggest goals is unity. I'm disheartened by seeing just the divide between people that live up north and people that live down south. I struggle with the animosity that exists in some of the neighborhoods towards some of the other neighborhoods. And I think really making us amazing is breaking down that barrier and truly getting us all to believe that we are one city. And it's not specific to one part of the city. I mean, both parts of the city truly have their own opinions, and it's unfortunate that people harbor those opinions. And I really think that being successful in this community is going to be about getting people to change that paradigm. I talked before about increasing the non-residential development in Commerce City. We got to start capitalizing on revenue that we are losing to our neighbors. We talk about $300 million in leakage. That's all of us residents moving outside the city in order to shop, eat, play, do all those kind of things. And we got to start capturing that money right here in Commerce City so we can fund some of those infrastructure projects, so we can fund some of those transportation problems that we discussed earlier. And then education. Education, we have to figure out a solution for education. Again, 2 districts, each with their own unique problems, between a 4-day school week, between being nearly taken over by the state and having an outside agency that they have to pay $8 million in order to have them manage. I mean, that's coming on the backs of those taxpayers. It's coming on the backs of the residents who are demanding a better education for their students and being forced to pay additional money to get that. We've got to come up with an innovative solution that fixes the problem in both those districts and really truly does prepare our children for the future.